massive explosion, a stone-throwing storm, or a pregnant shark. If we talk about the beach, these topics would rarely come up because they sound so impossible, and yet they did happen. Don't believe us? Watch along to learn about massive strandings and amazing rescues and other unbelievable beach events that no one would believe if they weren't filmed. Greenland tsunami. This cameraman gave us a glimpse into the moments that followed just before the massive Greenland tsunami of 2017 occurred. The water had suddenly receded, a telltale sign of a tsunami. But the fishermen didn't really take it seriously until it hit, and they had to take cover! The crashing wave may not look as disastrous here, but a second perspective shows the wave was strong enough to break metal gates, fences, and even sweep away a house. And that's not even half the power a tsunami can have. Massive explosion. Imagine being an innocent fish, simply minding your business, and out of nowhere, the ocean literally explodes! This happened in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, and was a result of an aircraft carrier, USS Gerald R. Ford, successfully completing its full ship shock trial. A full ship shock trial is a controlled underwater detonation test that checks if aircraft carriers and other Navy vessels can survive the blast. This helps the U.S. Department of Defense analyze and improve its watercraft. Of course, this doesn't make the explosion any less scarier. Close footage shows a supersonic blue circle milliseconds before a grayish outline which exploded outward and upended the lives of all marine animals in the area. Hailstorm. Nothing like going to the beach and being pelted by numerous ice stones, right? Russian beachgoers experienced a nightmarish day when a storm brought billowing clouds, wind, and hail. Initially, the beachgoers expected this to be a casual storm, so they stayed put in their canopies. But when the storm brought sticks into the fight, they realized how dangerous it was. Multiple beachgoers were seen running away, while others took shelter in nearby restaurants. The hail was so strong, it inflicted a few injuries, but luckily all people survived. Mysterious sphere. What would you do if you went to the beach and found a massive giant orb? This mystery object puzzled Japanese beachgoers as it suddenly showed up in the middle of the night at the beach. The sight was so eerie and perplexing, it even brought the local bomb squad to investigate. So, what was it? A giant jawbreaker? Or a gigantic pokeball? Turns out this mystery ball isn't as threatening as it looks. While this object looked like it weighed a few tons and even had a metal exterior, investigators revealed it had nothing suspicious or dangerous and was probably part of a marine boat or buoy, which simply washed ashore with the waves. Shark versus baby stingray. Crazy moments keep happening at the beach, and this one footage shows something so unreal it even surprised David Attenborough. One beachgoer spotted a shark swimming to the shore. He assumed it had wandered close, until he realized the shark was actively hunting a baby stingray. In a matter of seconds, the shark reached the baby stingray and even grabbed it by its stinger. But thanks to the rushing wave, the stingray managed to escape. In an exciting chase, the shark once more caught up to the stingray. But this time, the stingray had its stinger locked and loaded. With a single jab, the shark quickly learned even a baby stingray is not to be messed with. A plastic rescue. Tourists and beachgoers found a beached whale and immediately got to work to set it free. But while they were digging out the sand, something unexpected happened. The whale opened its mouth and something moved inside. Initially assuming the whale had a fish in its mouth, people didn't do anything. Until they eventually realized it was a plastic bag. Thankfully, the people spotted it and were able to get it out and return the whale to the ocean. If they hadn't, the whale would still be swimming with plastic in its mouth. So, for this poor whale, an embarrassing and possibly horrifying beaching turned out to be a blessing in disguise. Huge sunfish! People on the Bay of Santa Maria were stunned to see this giant swollen fish. But don't worry, it's not a massive shark or a giant puffer fish. This is the mola mola, or the sunfish. And believe it or not, this one is quite smaller than its friends. People who discovered the mola mola immediately got to work. They dug out sand to help it swim away, and kept it hydrated by throwing water. Eventually, the sunfish was able to swim back to the ocean. A great day for mankind! Before we move any further, like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon so you can keep watching our amazing content. Deceased seal pups. Sadly, it seems us humans are quite intent on wrecking other people's homes, as thousands of baby seals washed ashore in Namibia, and most of them had already expired. Most of these seal pups washed ashore at night, so people weren't able to rescue them. But with over 7,000 of them coming up on the shore, even numerous rescue efforts weren't enough. Unfortunately, the seal pups that survived the initial beaching were alive for a short few hours, eventually passing away. The event was marked as Namibia's worst in over 25 years. Experts haven't been able to find a cause yet, but most claim the pups arrived due to climate change and ocean littering. Crocodile caught in fishing net. Finding unexpected things in unexpected places is right up the sea's alley, and Indian fishermen learned about it the hard way. A group of Indian fishermen were sailing back to the shore after fishing when they noticed their fishing net kept moving aggressively. Once they reached the shore, the fishermen unloaded the net, pouring dozens of fish, and out rolled a giant crocodile. At first, the onlookers and fishermen were quite excited, but when they realized the crocodile was still alive, they scurried away. The croc took some fish from the net and casually pranced back into the waves. Rare albino whale. Let's admit it, Australia's the one place on Earth where you'd find the most bizarre and unexpected things, and the land of the outbacks has done it again. Drone footage of a Victorian beach revealed a big whale had washed ashore and beached itself. And while that was quite an upsetting find, the type of whale made it even more unique. The carcass belonged to not just any whale, but an extremely rare albino whale, and chances of it washing ashore are even rarer than itself. But let's stop marveling over it and think about what caused this beautiful whale to beach. And hopefully, this is the last time this happens. Fire eye on ocean. In one of history's firsts, this aerial clip shows the pristine waters of the Gulf of Mexico and a raging fire right in the middle of the ocean. No, this isn't a scene from a movie, but actually happened when an undersea gas pipe burst. The gas quickly mixed with the ocean water, which is why the fire didn't burn down, even though it was literally in water. Naturally, putting out the fire was quite difficult, because there weren't any firefighters on standby. And even if there were, they would never have imagined this could happen. Thankfully, they did manage to ship out firefighters, who ironically watered the fire from the gasless part of the ocean. Waterspout. A waterspout is a literal water tornado, so it's able to wreak havoc in a matter of minutes. Luckily, most waterspouts happen in the middle of the ocean, where they can't harm anyone. But Florida seems to be quite down on its luck, as it witnessed a few waterspouts, and some of them even moved inland. One waterspout formed close to Clearwater Beach in Florida, and moved to the beach, flinging canopies and beach chairs in the air. For some, it may look just like a casual storm, but one beachgoer captured the daunting moment when a massive waterspout formed in Destin, Florida. And yes, it's as scary as it looks! Motorboat collision. This group of casual fishermen were calmly going out about the day when they saw a motorboat rushing toward them. They tried to alert the owner, but realized it was probably too late and jumped in the ocean. Within seconds, the motorboat crashed and hopped onto their fishing boat, totaling it. It turns out the crashing motorboat was being driven by a man in his 70s, and instead of keeping an eye, he was sitting down with the boat's dash blocking his view. The sudden jump did give the fishing passengers a few injuries, including cuts and hypothermia. Luckily, all of them survived, and so did their GoPro footage. That gave them solid evidence for a lawsuit. Emergency landing. The Cocoa Beach Air Show is one of Central Florida's most awaited events of the year. People love to see the air troopers soar in the skies with immense force, sprinkling water from the beach. But 2 years ago, one pilot reaching for the air realized there was a malfunction with his aircraft and pulled a miraculous save by sliding across the shore. Of course, onlookers were horrified, especially those who were swimming in the water. But the skilled pilot managed to avoid them all and expertly landed on the shore. The pilot's smart move not only saved him from a horrendous crash, but also proved he's one heck of a driver. Man dancing on whale carcass. It's never an ideal day at the beach when you're swimming in the ocean and out pops a massive carcass of a mysterious sea creature. But this is what happened here. This gigantic whale carcass floated up to the water after it had expired. And while many people were left wondering what caused the whale's demise and were inspecting it, others had a different idea of exploration. An unknown man climbed the whale carcass and decided to do the popular dance move, the worm. Of course, what he did was quite wrong, since he could have been hurt, but many found his moves humorous. Shark head. Occasional shark sightings at the beach aren't unusual, but finding them on a massive tree stump like they were some form of an ocean sacrifice is pretty weird. But one such beach explorer witnessed this unique event as he and his friends stumbled upon a gigantic tree stump at a beach in New Zealand, and propped on its top was a shark's head. Pretty crazy, right? The boys couldn't believe their eyes either. Upon further investigations, they found the shark head had a fishing hook in its mouth. Although how it got there and where the rest of the body might be is still a mystery. An expired delivery. This might just be the shortest and most ironic circle of life. A man and his family were hoping to enjoy a classic beach day, but instead, they ended up birthing 3 baby sharks. And how it happened is crazier than you'd think. The family found a shark that had washed ashore in the sand, and despite not surviving, the man felt the shark was much more swollen than it should be, and decided to cut into its body to investigate. That turned out to be a life-saving move for the 3 shark babies that were still inside the mother's body. Luckily, the man was able to pull them out and push them into the ocean. Pregnant hammerhead with 40 pups. Beachgoers found a stranded hammerhead shark, but when they reached closer to help it, they realized the shark had already passed away. Most people would leave the body alone, but these beachgoers decided to call local marine biologists so they could investigate what had happened. And luckily for them, their quick thinking saved more than 40 lives. The hammerhead was pregnant with 40 pups that had yet to be born, but because local citizens and marine biologists got to the rescue, these baby hammerheads were able to be born and released into the ocean. I'm sure the mama hammerhead is looking over her babies from heaven and is quite thankful for the outcome. Hammerhead rescued. Marcus and his brother were swimming in the pristine waters of Destin, Florida, when they spotted a hammerhead nearby. Initially, the 2 brothers were scared and tried to get out of the water, but something just didn't feel right. Marcus's daring brother got closer to the hammerhead and realized it was injured from a fishing wire. Then followed a compassionate act. The 2 brothers joined hands to bring the hammerhead to the shore, where they pulled out the rod and freed the shark from a miserable cage. Finally, they released the shark back into the ocean. And after a few seconds of gaining its breath, the shark happily swam away. Gigantic jellyfish. Saving a stranded shark is much easier than you think. Don't believe me? Ask these men who had to save a jellyfish. Tourists visiting Playa El Rodito in Marbella, Spain were about to scuba dive when a massive jellyfish swam to the shore. Jellyfish stings can have a pretty nasty pain, so the divers had to slowly and carefully get out of the water so they wouldn't startle the jellyfish. But a brave citizen picked the jellyfish in a wooden trunk to avoid being stung and carefully removed it from the shallow waters. Don't worry though, after ensuring everyone was okay, the jellyfish was later returned to the sea. Massive whale strandings. The coast of a remote section of a Chilean Patagonia was lined with over 300 whale carcasses, which had washed ashore long ago and were only discovered after a flight inspection. This is the largest whale stranding in the world, but scientists aren't sure what caused it. They fear it might have been due to groups of orca visiting the shore. Although this is just a theory, some even think it's due to climate changes. The locals were quite terrified of the sight. Some believed it was a sign of worse times, while others believed a bigger predator lurked in the ocean. The real reason is still unknown. Sustainable fishing. These men were fishing at the beach when their fishing rod began bobbing. But when they reeled it in, they realized they had caught a massive stingray instead. Most people would have pulled the stingray to the sand, torturing it for some pictures. But these young men were quite smart about the decision. Not only did the men decide to demonstrate sustainability by letting the stingray go, they also wanted to pull out the hook to ensure the stingray wouldn't be in pain. This was quite tricky because the stingray was stuck in their fishing hook. But after a joint effort, they managed to pull out the hook, and the stingray swam back into the ocean. Oarfish. Have you ever seen an oarfish? Most people haven't, so it's natural to be a little spooked out when you come across one. But seeing one on land after a serious disaster? Yeah, that's pretty ominous. This oarfish suddenly beached up in Hindanayan town's southern light after a massive earthquake hit Bhutan. Citizens who found the oarfish were terrified because many believed sightings of such long, deep water fish meant more trouble for the land. Considering this oarfish popped up after an earthquake, the people may be onto something. Sadly, the oarfish passed away from lack of oxygen, despite people relocating it to the water. Sperm whale fetus. Life doesn't always work out the way we want, and sometimes it can be pretty brutal. People were quite upset when a massive sperm whale was found beached in Guangdong province in southern China, and despite their attempts to free it, the stranded whale passed away. Eager to find out more about the whale, marine biologists conducted an autopsy. They cut into the whale's stomach and realized the now deceased whale was pregnant, and the unborn baby whale fetus was still in its mother's womb. Sadly, the baby whale had also passed away. What a sad day for whales! Tons of expired squids. Waking up one day to find hundreds of sea animals just flinging to the shore and passing away is a nightmarish situation. But it became reality for Chile, where the island of Santa Maria was littered by deceased squid. The squid bodies were floating as if they were alive, but when they touched the shore, people realized the squids had long passed away and were simply being pushed by the current. But the story is far from over. Scientists are concerned about what caused this mass deceased stranding, because it means either the squids were pushed by some scary creature or the ocean is getting too hot to host them. Jellyfish infestation. Would you swim in these waters? A beach near Shoklan village in Crimea witnessed an influx of jellyfish all cluttered at the shore, preventing beachgoers from swimming. The jellyfish infestation happened because climate change made the shore water saltier. Jellyfish love salt water, so hundreds of them flocked to the shore to get a nice salty breath. Of course, that doesn't mean it's a good thing. The fact that these squishy organisms had to come to the shore means we're destroying their natural habitat, and we should seriously look into that. Basking shark. A gorgeous basking shark winded up on the sandy shores of Martha's Vineyard, but sadly didn't survive. Tourists discovered it in the morning. The shark had beached at a surprisingly high distance, which made people think it had gotten stranded. But when they came closer, they realized the shark had multiple deep cuts on the rostrum, the snout. This suggested that the shark had run into a gang of poachers or hunters and even managed to escape. But sadly, its injuries caught up to it, and the shark was forced to beach itself in a desperate attempt to get aid. Sadly, the aid never reached it, and it passed away on the beach. Floating gold. A group of Yemeni fishermen netted a whale, the biggest catch of the year for them, but they didn't know how lucky they were about to get. The fishermen discovered a 127-kilogram lump of ambergris from the whale's belly. Ambergris is a waxy substance naturally made by secretions in a sperm whale's stomach. It is so rare and expensive, it's called the floating gold. The humble fishermen stored the ambergris until they found a willing seller and managed to sell it for more than US $1.5 million. With this money, they were able to build houses for themselves and save enough to share with the community. A heartwarming story. Great white feeding frenzy. The ocean wouldn't be itself without a little chaotic energy. And here's the perfect example of that. A giant whale carcass floated to the surface and gave us a glimpse into the wild side of nature. It's unknown what caused the whale to expire, but sharks in the area were not waiting for an answer. Within minutes of the whale carcass floating, dozens of great white sharks started feasting on it. In just a few hours, the whale's entire blubber had disappeared. But more great whites came, eating the whale carcass until nothing remained. Hammerhead bodies. Samuel Etra was walking to work one day when he suddenly stopped in his tracks. Dumped on Sand Island in Hawaii was one big hammerhead shark and hundreds of her babies a few steps away. Sadly, the mama shark and her babies didn't survive. Experts are still looking into what caused them to expire. Some claim the sharks were pulled in accidentally by fishermen and left on the coast. Others think it might be due to the sudden change in ocean temperature after the volcanic eruptions in Hawaii. Whatever the case, we can't say it's not saddening. It's time for today's open discussion. The Ganges is India's most prized river, so much that the people love to get as close as they can, celebrating its waves, even if they're risking their lives. This group of Indian citizens had flocked to the Ganges' shore. They were all keeping an eye out on the waves that were moving suggestively. But it seemed the Ganges had a major rift to deal with, because the closer one of its waves got to the people, the higher it became. Some of the citizens recognized the danger and pulled away, but a few stubborn ones remained to witness the spectacle. In a swift and sudden motion, a massive wave crashed to the shore, sprinkling people with water and teaching them a thing or two about keeping their distance. Thank you very much for watching the video. Do like and share it with your friends. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to not miss any of the upcoming amazing videos. Thank you once again.